Hi everybody, it's Terry Ryder from hotspotting.com.au, bringing you my regular weekly feature at this time, Hotspot of the Week. And I want to continue the theme of talking about locations in regional Australia, because that's where the growth is at the moment. We keep hearing about what's happening in Sydney and Melbourne, and quite often articles inferring that what's happening in Sydney is happening everywhere, with prices in decline. Simply isn't the case. And regional Australia is where a lot of the growth is happening at the moment. In the past couple of weeks, I've talked about regional Queensland, where there are a number of markets that are rising. Last week, regional Victoria, which I believe is the #1 strongest market in Australia at the moment. And tonight, I'm going to focus on regional New South Wales, also a place where there's lots of growth markets. Not as strong, I believe, as regional Victoria, but nevertheless, there are a number of locations across the state that are doing pretty well. And we have this trend where regional markets are doing quite the opposite of what's happening in the capital cities. That's very true in Victoria, where the Melbourne market generally is trending down, but regional Victoria is very much heading in the other direction. It's also true in New South Wales. Sydney is definitely the market in the country with the biggest decline happening, but regional New South Wales is heading in opposite directions. Recently did suburb by suburb, town by town analysis in terms of sales activity and also with prices where they're heading, and found 150 locations in regional New South Wales where median prices have grown by 5% or more in the past year. So 150 locations with at least solid growth in prices, but some of them are doing better than solid. They're growing strongly because 65 of the 150 locations have increased by more than 10% in the last 12 months. And there's another 67 locations we identified with our town by town, suburb by suburb research, where prices have grown somewhere between 1% and 5%. So plenty of markets showing growth. Not as strong as regional Victoria. Regional Victoria has a lot of places, a lot of locations where the growth has been above 20%, and plenty more where there's growth somewhere between 15 and 20%. In New South Wales, not as strong as that. We can find 7 locations with growth of 20% or more. Crestwood, which is part of the Queanbeyan market just outside of Canberra, is up 26%. And then a number of coastal markets, Evans Head, Kiama, Catalina, Berry, Soldiers Point in the Port Stephens area, and Shoal Bay also in that area. These are all markets where their median prices have risen in the last 12 months by more than 20%. The Newcastle region is pretty strong. Newcastle, the city of Newcastle, has probably been the strongest market in New South Wales over the last couple of years. Still plenty of suburbs of Newcastle with strong price growth, but we're starting to see the growth ripple out to nearby areas, the local government area of Lake Macquarie, alongside the city of Newcastle, and also the Port Stephens area. All areas where there are multiple suburbs with solid to strong price growth happening at the moment. The Central Coast is another standout. We've identified 13 locations in the Central Coast region where prices have risen by at least 5% in the last 12 months, headed by Ettalong Beach, which is up 17%, Kincumber up 10%, Wamburai up 13%. So we found also plenty of locations where sales demand is rising. 53 regional New South Wales locations with the markets in terms of demand, that is sales activity, is trending upwards. It's slightly below the average of the last 2 years. I'm talking about the results of our most recent summer survey. We do them every quarter, every town and suburb in Australia, in fact. And in regional New South Wales, we found 53 locations right across the state where demand is trending higher. Headed by the local government area of Queanbeyan Palorang, just outside of Canberra. That's one of the strongest markets in New South Wales at the moment. Those locations close to Newcastle, the LGAs of Lake Macquarie and Maitland in particular, have a number of rising markets. And then we go further out into the Hunter region. Singleton is rising. Muswellbrook has certainly moved strongly into a recovery mode. It had a bit of a downturn, suffered from oversupply a few years ago, but very much on the comeback trail, Muswellbrook. In the last 18 months, quarter by quarter, its sales activity has risen very steadily. And as a result of that, its median house price has risen 8% in the past year. Other locations throughout the Hunter region are doing similar. One of the emerging markets is Tamworth. We now found 4 suburbs of rising demand there. North Tamworth is an example. Over the last 18 months, quarter by quarter, we've seen a steady uplift in the number of sales, which means that demand is rising. And as a result, the median price for North Tamworth has risen 11.5% in the past 12 months. But there are towns right across regional New South Wales where demand is on the up. Just some of them: Casino, Kyogle, Cooma, Griffith Parks, Gunnedah, Cowra, Glen Innes, Inverell, Gloucester, Lithgow, Mudgee, Tuncurry, and way up west in Broken Hill. So plenty of growth markets in New South Wales, outside of Sydney, doing very much the opposite. While Sydney is subsiding and prices, generally speaking, are falling, we have markets rising and producing growth in prices right now, which ranges from somewhere between moderate to solid to strong. Not as strong as what we've found recently in regional Victoria and indeed regional Tasmania, but nevertheless pretty steady market with plenty of growth to be found. And the beauty of it is, if you're a property investor looking for growth at some of these regional centres, the entry prices are much lower than the capital cities, the rental yields are much higher, and as we're seeing with some of the figures I've given you just now, there's plenty of prospects for growth in some of these regional cities and towns in regional New South Wales, which just adds to the story, which I think is the strongest story in real estate at the moment, that that's very much about the regional areas. And some of these are substantial cities in their own right. Some of the regional cities that I would talk about are bigger than some of our capital cities, so they deserve to be included in the discussion, but you're not going to hear about them in mainstream media. That's it for now. Terry Ryder from hotspotting.com.au signing off. We'll do this Hotspot of the Week feature same time next week, and there'll be 1 or 2 other broadcasts between now and then as well. Signing off. Talk to you again soon.